Christmas morning at 24, I watched my younger sister Brianna unwrap keys to a brand new Range Rover while I stared at a plastic keychain from the dollar store. Mom beamed as Brianna squealed, but her smile vanished when I quietly asked why there was such a massive difference. That question unleashed a family secret so devastating it would destroy everything I thought I knew about my identity, my parents' marriage, and the real reason I had always been treated like an outsider in my own home. Hey everyone. Before we dive into this absolutely wild family drama, drop a comment letting me know where you are watching from. I love connecting with viewers worldwide. If stories about family betrayal and unexpected revenge get your heart racing, like mine do, smash that like button and hit subscribe, because this tale of Christmas corruption and sweet justice is just getting started. Trust me, you will not see this twist coming. The silence that followed my question felt like eternity. Mom's face had gone completely white, and Dad suddenly found his coffee cup absolutely fascinating. Brianna, still clutching her new car keys, looked between our parents with growing confusion. "What do you mean, honey?" Mom finally managed, but her voice had this weird tremor I had never heard before. I gestured toward the pile of expensive gifts surrounding Brianna. Designer clothes, the latest iPhone jewelry, and of course, the Range Rover. Then I looked at my single gift, a keychain that probably cost less than a coffee. "I just want to understand the logic here," I said carefully. "Brianna gets a car worth more than most people's annual salary, and I get this. Are we celebrating the same Christmas?" Dad finally looked up, and I saw something in his eyes that made my stomach drop. Guilt. Deep, soul-crushing guilt. "Serafina, sweetheart." He started using my full name the way he only did when something was seriously wrong. "Maybe we should talk about this privately." But I was done with private conversations and hushed explanations. 24 years of feeling like the odd one out of watching my parents bend over backward for Brianna while I worked multiple jobs just to pay for community college, of being told I was being dramatic when I pointed out the obvious favoritism. "No, Dad. I think we should talk about this right here, right now. In front of everyone." Mom stood up abruptly, nearly knocking over her chair. "Serafina Marie, do not take that tone with us. We have provided for you your entire life." "Provided for me?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You mean like how you provided for my college education?" "Oh wait, that was student loans. Or how you provided a car when I turned 16. "Oh right, I bought my own beat-up Honda with money from my part-time job." Brianna was looking increasingly uncomfortable. "Maybe I should go try out the car," she mumbled. "No," I said firmly. "Stay right there. I want you to hear this too, because apparently I am the only one in this family who thinks this situation is completely insane." That was when Mom made her fatal mistake. Instead of trying to de-escalate or explain, she went on the attack. "You know what your problem is, Serafina. You have always been jealous of your sister. Even as children, you could not stand that she was prettier, more popular, more successful. And now, as adults, you cannot handle that she is still achieving more than you." The words hit like physical blows. I felt my face burn with humiliation and rage. "More successful," I repeated slowly. "Brianna dropped out of college twice. She has never held a job for longer than 3 months. She crashed 2 cars that you bought her. Exactly what success are we talking about here? She is getting married to a wonderful man from a good family," Mom snapped. "She is building a life, while you are still playing around with your little art projects and refusing to settle down." My art projects. The paintings that had actually started selling in local galleries. The commissions that were helping me pay down my student debt. The creative work that brought me genuine joy but had never been taken seriously by my family. "Right," I said quietly. "Because Marcus's family has money. Brianna's life choices suddenly matter more than mine." That was when Dad finally spoke up, and what he said changed everything. "It is not about the money, Serafina. It is about family obligations." Something in the way he said family obligations made me pause. There was weight behind those words, a meaning I was not grasping. "What family obligations?" I asked slowly. Mom shot Dad a look that could have killed him on the spot, but it was too late. The truth was already starting to leak out. Marcus's father, Dad began, then stopped looking helplessly at Mom. Shut up, Richard, Mom hissed. Do not say another word. But I was like a dog with a bone now. Marcus's father, what? What does Marcus's father have to do with anything? Brianna, who had been silent through most of this exchange, suddenly spoke up. Wait, what are you guys talking about? Why would Marcus's dad care about what Christmas gifts I get? And that was the moment I saw it. The look that passed between my parents. Pure panic. Tell me. I said, my voice deadly calm. Tell me right now what this is really about, or I swear I will walk out that door and never come back. Mom's face crumpled and I realized she was about to cry. In 24 years, I had seen my mother cry exactly twice. At her father's funeral and when our dog died. This was not a woman who showed vulnerability easily. You do not understand, she whispered. The situation is complicated. Then uncomplicate it, I shot back. Because from where I am standing, it looks pretty simple. You have a favorite daughter and it is not me. Just admit it so we can all stop pretending this is a normal family dynamic. That was when Brianna surprised me by standing up and walking over to me. For a moment, I thought she was going to hug me or try to comfort me. Instead, she pressed the Range Rover keys into my hand. Here, she said quietly. Take the car. I do not want it if it is causing this much drama. I stared down at the keys, feeling the weight of them in my palm. This is not about the car, Brianna. This is about 24 years of being treated like a second-class citizen in my own family. You are not a second-class citizen, Dad said desperately. You are our daughter, and we love you just as much. Then prove it, I challenged. Tell me the truth about why Brianna gets everything handed to her while I have had to fight for every scrap of attention or support. Tell me why Marcus's father factors into our family Christmas. Tell me why you look like you are about to throw up every time I ask a direct question. The silence stretched out again, but this time it felt different. This time it felt like something was about to break wide open. Finally, Mom whispered, because she is not really your sister. The words hung in the air like smoke, poisonous and impossible to take back. I felt the world tilt sideways and suddenly I was gripping the back of the couch to keep from falling over. What did you just say? My voice sounded strange, like it was coming from someone else entirely. Mom's hands were shaking now and Dad had gone completely pale. Brianna looked as shocked as I felt, her mouth opening and closing without sound. I said, Mom repeated each word, seeming to cause her physical pain. She is not really your sister. That is impossible, Brianna said quickly. We grew up together. We have baby pictures together. You are half-sisters. Dad interrupted, finally finding his voice. Same mother, different fathers. I sank onto the couch, the Range Rover keys falling from my numb fingers onto the floor. Different fathers, I repeated mechanically. Yes, Mom whispered. Your biological father is Marcus's dad, Jonathan Whitmore. The name hit me like a freight train. Jonathan Whitmore. The real estate mogul whose face was plastered on billboards all over our city. The man who owned half the commercial properties downtown. The man who was worth, according to local magazines, somewhere north of $50 million. That is why. Dad continued, his voice hollow. We have been trying to keep everything quiet. When Brianna started dating Marcus 2 years ago, Jonathan reached out to us privately. He made it clear that if his affair with your mother ever became public knowledge, it would destroy his marriage, his business reputation, and his son's inheritance. I was having trouble processing this. My brain kept rejecting the information like a computer trying to run software it was not equipped for. So let me get this straight, I said slowly. My real father is a millionaire who has been pretending I do not exist for 24 years. And instead of confronting him or demanding support, you all decided to just keep quiet and hope I never figured it out. It is not that simple, Mom protested. Jonathan was very clear about what would happen if we made demands. He said he would deny everything, claim I was lying, and use his lawyers to destroy our family financially. We could not risk it. But when Marcus started dating Brianna, I said, the pieces clicking into place with horrible clarity. Suddenly, Jonathan had a reason to keep our family happy. Because if his precious son's girlfriend's family suddenly started making noise about his affair, it would be much harder to deny. The look of guilt on Dad's face confirmed everything. So that is why Brianna gets everything. I continued, my voice getting stronger as my anger built. Because Jonathan Whitmore is essentially paying you to keep me quiet. The expensive gifts, the college tuition, the car, it is all hush money disguised as parental generosity. We never asked for anything, Dad said desperately. Jonathan insisted on providing for Brianna. He said it was the least he could do to ensure family harmony. Family harmony. I laughed bitterly. Right. And what about providing for his actual biological daughter? What about ensuring my harmony? Mom started crying in earnest now. We were trying to protect you. If Jonathan acknowledged you publicly, it would destroy so many lives. His wife, his other children who do not know about you, Marcus's future with your sister. My sister, who is not actually my sister, I corrected. My half-sister, whose boyfriend is also my half-brother. Did anyone else find that detail worth mentioning at some point over the last 2 years? Brianna had gone completely white. Marcus is your half-brother. Apparently so, I said, turning to look at her. How does it feel to know you have been dating your stepbrother while our parents took bribes to keep quiet about it? They are not step-siblings, Dad said quickly. There is no legal relationship between you and Marcus. Jonathan is not married to your mother. Oh well, that makes it so much better, I snapped. So glad we cleared up that technicality. I stood up and started pacing, my mind racing. 24 years of feeling like an outsider in my own family. 24 years of being told I was too sensitive when I pointed out the obvious favoritism. 24 years of watching my parents bend over backward for Brianna while I struggled for every scrap of attention. How long have you known? I asked. About Jonathan being my father. Since before you were born, Mom admitted. Richard and I were separated when I had the affair. We were trying to work things out, and when I found out I was pregnant, you decided to pretend I was Dad's kid and hope for the best. We ran a paternity test when you were 6 months old, Dad said quietly. When it confirmed you were not mine biologically, we agreed to never speak of it again. Richard legally adopted you when we remarried. How noble of you, I said sarcastically. And you have been taking Jonathan's money ever since. It started small, Mom said defensively. Birthday gifts, Christmas presents. Things that could be explained as generosity from a family friend. But when Brianna started getting serious with Marcus, Jonathan became much more invested in maintaining good relationships with our family. I thought about all the times I had wondered why we seemed to have more money than Dad's job as a high school teacher should have provided. The family vacations I was never invited on because they were graduation gifts for Brianna. The home improvements that happened whenever I was away at summer jobs. The mysterious college fund that appeared when Brianna decided she wanted to try school again for the 3rd time. Does Marcus know? I asked. Absolutely not, Mom said quickly. And it needs to stay that way. If he finds out that his girlfriend is his half-sister, it will destroy their relationship and expose everything we have been trying to protect. I stared at her in disbelief. Are you serious right now? You are still more concerned about protecting Jonathan Whitmore's reputation than about the fact that you have been lying to me my entire life. We are concerned about protecting this family, Dad said firmly. All of us, including you. Including me? I laughed harshly. How exactly does keeping me in the dark about my real father protect me? How does watching my half-sister get showered with gifts while I struggle to pay rent protect me? How does letting me think I am just the disappointing daughter, instead of knowing I am the secret shame, protect me? None of them had an answer for that. I picked up the Range Rover keys from the floor and tossed them back to Brianna. "Keep your blood money car," I said. "I am going to go have a conversation with my real father." The panic that flashed across my parents' faces was immediate and intense. "Serafina, no!" Mom pleaded. "You cannot just show up at Jonathan's house. His wife and children will be there. You will destroy innocent lives. Like my innocent life was destroyed by being lied to for 24 years. Please," Dad begged. "Let us figure out a better way to handle this. Give us time to think." I looked around the living room that had been my home for over 2 decades at the family that had never really felt like mine, at the sister who was not really my sister, and I made a decision that would change everything. "You have had 24 years to figure out a better way," I said quietly. "I think it is time for a different approach." I walked out of that house with nothing but my car keys and my phone, my mind reeling with 24 years of lies finally making sense. Every slight, every moment of feeling like an outsider, every time I had wondered why I looked nothing like either of my parents. It all clicked into place with brutal clarity. But before I confronted Jonathan Whitmore, I needed information, and I knew exactly where to start. My best friend Emma worked as a paralegal at one of the biggest law firms downtown. If anyone could help me understand what I was dealing with legally, it was her. I called her from my car sitting in the parking lot of a coffee shop about 20 minutes from my family's house. "Emma, I need your help with something, and it is going to sound completely insane. It is Christmas morning, Sarah. This better be good. I just found out that my real father is Jonathan Whitmore, and my parents have been taking hush money from him for years to keep me quiet about it." Oh. There was a long pause. Then, "Holy shit. Are you serious right now?" "Dead serious. What kind of legal trouble could I cause for him if I went public with this?" "Jesus, Sarah. Give me 5 minutes to think like a lawyer instead of your shocked best friend." I could hear her moving around, probably grabbing her laptop. "Okay, first question. Do you have any proof of paternity?" My parents admitted it. They said they ran a test when I was 6 months old. "That is good, but we would need documentation." Second question. Has he been providing any financial support over the years? I thought about all those mysterious family improvements, Brianna's endless stream of expensive gifts, the college fund that appeared out of nowhere. Not directly to me, but definitely to my family. My mom made it sound like it started small and grew over time, especially after my half-sister started dating his son. Wait, what? His son? Yeah, that is another fun twist. My half-sister has been unknowingly dating my half-brother for 2 years. This is like a soap opera written by someone on hallucinogens, Emma muttered. Okay, here is what I know. If Jonathan Whitmore has been providing financial support, even indirectly, it could be construed as acknowledgement of paternity. And if he has been doing it specifically to keep you quiet, that starts to look like extortion or bribery. What about statute of limitations? This has been going on for over 20 years. Financial support creating an ongoing relationship changes things. Plus, you only just discovered the truth, which could reset some clocks. But Sarah, you need to be really careful here. Men like Jonathan Whitmore do not get to where they are by playing fair. If you go after him directly, he is going to come back swinging. What would you do if you were me? I would document everything first. Get copies of any financial records showing unexplained income to your family. Bank statements, deposit records, anything showing money coming from sources your dad's teaching salary could not explain. Then I would hire the nastiest family attorney in the city and let them handle the initial contact. I do not have money for a nasty family attorney. You do if your case is strong enough. Any lawyer worth their salt would take this on contingency. The potential settlement from a $50 million real estate mogul who has been hiding an affair for 24 years. That is lawyer Christmas morning right there. After I hung up with Emma, I sat in my car for a long time thinking. Part of me wanted to drive straight to the Whitmore family compound and bang on the door until Jonathan came out to face me. But Emma was right. I needed to be strategic. I drove home to my tiny apartment and spent the rest of Christmas Day researching everything I could find about Jonathan Whitmore and his family. What I discovered made my stomach turn. Jonathan Whitmore was not just wealthy. He was politically connected, socially prominent, and had a reputation as a family man who supported children's charities and educational foundations. His wife, Catherine, was on the boards of 3 different nonprofits. His son, Marcus, was being groomed to take over the family business and had recently been featured in the local business journal as one of the city's rising young entrepreneurs. And then there were his other children. 2 daughters, both younger than me, who went to private schools and had no idea their father had been living a double life. But the most interesting thing I found was a pattern. Jonathan Whitmore had been involved in several high-profile legal battles over the years, and in every single case, his opponents had mysteriously backed down at the last minute. Suddenly, withdrawn lawsuits abruptly settled disputes, former business partners who stopped talking to the media without explanation. Emma was right. This man did not play fair. My phone started ringing around 6 that evening. Mom, Dad, even Brianna, all calling repeatedly, all leaving increasingly frantic voicemails begging me to come home so we could discuss this as a family. The final straw came when Marcus himself called. Sarah, Brianna told me you guys had some kind of family fight today. She is really upset, and I was wondering if maybe I could help mediate or something. I almost laughed. My half-brother wanted to help mediate the family drama caused by the fact that he was unknowingly dating our half-sister. That is really sweet of you, Marcus, I said carefully. But this is not the kind of problem that mediation can fix. Come on, it cannot be that bad. Families fight especially around the holidays. Too much time together, too much stress, too much alcohol. It happens to everyone. Has your family ever fought about secret half-siblings? I asked. There was a confused pause. What? Never mind. Tell Brianna I hope you both have a great evening. I hung up before he could ask more questions, but the conversation had given me an idea. A terrible, brilliant, potentially catastrophic idea. What if I did not go to Jonathan Whitmore first? What if I went to his wife? I spent the next hour crafting an email. Nothing accusatory, nothing demanding. Just a simple message introducing myself as someone who had recently discovered some information that might be relevant to Mrs. Whitmore's family, and would she be available for a private conversation? Sometime soon, I included my phone number and a photo of myself, because even if Jonathan had never told his wife about me, I had a feeling she would recognize the resemblance to her husband once she saw my face. Then I sat with my finger hovering over the send button for another 20 minutes, knowing that once I pressed it, there would be no going back. My phone rang again. This time it was a number I did not recognize. Hello? Is this Serafina? The voice was unfamiliar, deep authoritative with the kind of confidence that comes from years of having people do whatever you tell them to do. Who is this? This is Jonathan Whitmore. I believe we need to have a conversation. My blood turned to ice. How did you get my number? Your parents are very concerned about you. They thought it might be helpful if you and I spoke directly. My parents, I repeated slowly, called you today. They called me this afternoon. They explained that you had discovered some sensitive information about your parentage, and that you might be considering taking actions that could be harmful to several families. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. Even now, even after everything that had been revealed, my parents were still more concerned about protecting Jonathan Whitmore than about protecting me. I see, I said quietly. I would like to meet with you tomorrow morning, privately. I think we can find a solution that works for everyone involved. A solution like what more hush money. A bigger payoff to keep the inconvenient daughter quiet. A solution, he said firmly, that acknowledges the complexity of this situation while protecting the innocent parties involved, including you. How generous. 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. There is a small park on Maple Street near the duck pond. Do you know it? I knew it. It was public enough to be safe, quiet enough for a private conversation. Fine, I said. But Mr. Whitmore, I hope you are not planning to offer me money to disappear because that ship sailed the moment my parents chose to protect you instead of me. I hung up before he could respond, and then I did something that felt both terrifying and liberating. I pressed send on the email to his wife. The next morning, I arrived at the park 15 minutes early and chose a bench with a clear view of all the entrances. At exactly 10 o'clock, a black Mercedes pulled up and Jonathan Whitmore stepped out. Seeing him in person for the first time was surreal. I had studied photos of him online, but nothing had prepared me for the shock of recognition that hit me when I saw my own eyes looking back at me from his face. The same green eyes, the same stubborn jawline, the same way of tilting the head slightly when thinking. He was impeccably dressed despite the early hour. Tailored coat, expensive shoes, the kind of quiet wealth that announced itself without saying a word. Everything about him radiated power and control. "Serafina," he said, settling onto the bench beside me without being invited. "You look just like your grandmother did at your age." "Your mother or your wife's mother?" I asked coolly. A flash of something, surprise, maybe respect, crossed his face. "My mother. She would have liked you, I think. She always appreciated directness." "How nice. I am sure she also would have appreciated honesty, which seems to be in short supply in your family." He was quiet for a moment, studying me with those familiar green eyes. "Your parents told me you threatened to go public with information about our relationship. I told them I was going to have a conversation with my real father. I noticed they interpreted that as a threat. Was it not meant as one?" I turned to face him fully. "Mr. Whitmore, for 24 years I have lived in a family where I never quite fit. Where I was always the one who had to work twice as hard for half the recognition. Where I watched my sister get handed everything while I struggled for scraps. And yesterday I found out that the reason for all of that was because my parents were being paid to keep me quiet about something I did not even know existed." "They were not being paid to keep you quiet," he said carefully. "They were being helped financially because I wanted to ensure you had a good life. By giving my sister a Range Rover while I got a keychain." He had the grace to look uncomfortable. The recent escalation in support was related to Marcus and Brianna's relationship. I wanted to make sure there were no financial pressures that might cause problems. "You wanted to make sure my family stayed bought," I corrected. "And when your son started dating my half-sister, the price went up." "That is a crude way of putting it." "It is an accurate way of putting it." My phone buzzed with a text message. I glanced at it and felt a surge of vindication. "Excuse me for just a moment," I said, standing up to take the call that immediately followed. "Hello, Mrs. Whitmore," I said loud enough for Jonathan to hear. The sharp intake of breath from the man beside me was audible. "Miss Morrison, thank you for calling me back. I received your email last night and I have to say I am very interested in having that conversation you mentioned." Jonathan was on his feet now, his face pale with fury. He was making sharp cutting motions with his hand, but I turned away from him. "I would be happy to meet with you at your convenience, Mrs. Whitmore. I think there are some things about your family that you deserve to know." "How about this afternoon? Say 2 o'clock at the Meridian Hotel downtown, the Lobby Cafe." "That sounds perfect. I will see you then." I hung up and turned back to Jonathan, who looked like he was about to have a heart attack. "You contacted my wife." His voice was dangerously quiet. "I sent her an email introducing myself and suggesting we meet. She seems very interested in what I have to tell her." "You have no idea what you are doing," he said, his mask of control finally slipping. "Catherine has a weak heart. The shock of learning about this could literally kill her." "Then maybe you should have thought of that before you spent 24 years lying to her." "I am not going to let you destroy my family." "Your family." I laughed harshly. "What about my family? What about the family you helped destroy by paying my parents to treat me like a second-class citizen? What about your son who has been unknowingly dating his half-sister for 2 years? That stopped him cold. What did you say? Oh, did Mom and Dad not mention that part when they called you in a panic yesterday? Marcus and Brianna have been together for 2 years. Your son is in love with your secret daughter's half-sister. How is that for a family complication? Jonathan sank back onto the bench, his face gray. That is impossible. Marcus would have mentioned if Brianna had a sister. Half-sister. And why would he mention me? I am just the family disappointment who works multiple jobs and lives in a tiny apartment. Not exactly the kind of person who gets included in conversations about the successful girlfriend. This is a disaster, he muttered more to himself than to me. It is about to get much worse, I said, sitting back down beside him. Because I am done being your family's dirty little secret. I am done watching my half-sister get showered with gifts bought with guilt money while I struggle to pay my student loans. And I am definitely done protecting you from the consequences of your own choices. What do you want? He asked finally. Money I can arrange for a trust fund, a lump sum payment, whatever you need to live comfortably. I do not want your money. Then what? I want acknowledgement. I want you to tell your wife and your other children that I exist. I want you to tell Marcus that he has been dating his half-sister so he can make an informed decision about his relationship. And I want you to stop bribing my parents to treat me like a stranger in my own family. That would destroy everything, he said desperately. My marriage, my other children's trust, Marcus's relationship with Brianna, my business reputation. Yes, I said simply. It probably will. You cannot be serious. I have never been more serious about anything in my life. He was quiet for a long moment, and I could practically see him calculating options, looking for angles, trying to find a way to maintain control of the situation. If I agree to some form of acknowledgement, he said slowly, would you be willing to discuss terms? A way to handle this that minimizes the damage to innocent parties. The only innocent parties in this situation are your wife and your other children who have been lied to for decades. Everyone else made choices. Including you if you go forward with this. Yes, I agreed. Including me, but at least my choices will be honest ones. My phone rang again. This time it was Emma. I hope you are sitting down, she said without preamble. I did some digging into Jonathan Whitmore's finances, and you are not going to believe what I found. I looked at Jonathan, who was watching me with growing alarm. Tell me, I said. Your buddy Jonathan has been very busy over the years, Emma said, her voice tight with excitement. Not only has he been funneling money to your family, but I found evidence of at least 3 other women who have received regular payments from his various business accounts over the past 15 years. I felt Jonathan go rigid beside me. He could not hear Emma's words, but my expression was apparently telling enough. 3 other women. 3 that I could find with 2 hours of research. Who knows how many more there are. Sarah, I think your father is not just a cheating husband. He is a serial cheater who has been systematically paying off multiple families to keep quiet about it. I stared at Jonathan, who was now openly listening to my side of the conversation. That is very interesting information, I said carefully. I will call you back in a few minutes. I hung up and turned to face the man who was supposed to be my father. How many of us are there? I asked quietly. I do not know what you are talking about. How many other children do you have scattered around this city? How many other families are you paying to keep quiet? The muscle in his jaw was twitching, and I knew I had hit the mark. That is none of your business. It becomes my business when I realize I am not your only secret. When I realize this is not just about one affair 24 years ago, but about a pattern of behavior that has probably been going on for decades. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Miss Morrison, this is Catherine Whitmore. Something has come up and I would like to move our meeting to noon instead of 2 o'clock if that works for you. I am very eager to hear what you have to tell me. I showed Jonathan the text. The look on his face was priceless. She suspects something is wrong, he said desperately. Catherine is not stupid. If you told her you had information about our family, she is going to put pieces together. Good. Maybe it is time someone in your family besides you knew the truth. You do not understand the position this puts me in. My business relationships, my political connections, my charitable work, all of it depends on my reputation as a family man. If this comes out, especially if it comes out that there are multiple affairs, multiple children, you will lose everything, I finished. Yes, I am starting to understand that. He was sweating now despite the cool morning air. There has to be a way to resolve this privately. Name your price. I already told you this is not about money. Then what? What do you really want from me? I thought about that question for a long moment. What did I want? 24 years ago, I would have wanted a father who acknowledged me, who was proud of me, who included me in his life. But looking at this man now, seeing his desperation to protect his image above everything else, his willingness to pay off multiple families to hide his affairs, his complete lack of remorse for the pain he had caused, I realized I did not want him as a father at all. I want you to stop hiding, I said finally. I want you to face the consequences of your choices, and I want everyone you have hurt over the years to know that they are not alone. If you expose me, you expose yourself, he warned. Your name will be in the papers. Your life will be dissected by reporters. Are you prepared for that? Are you prepared for your wife to find out that her husband has been lying to her for decades? Are you prepared for Marcus to learn that the woman he wants to marry is his half-sister? Are you prepared for your other children to discover they have multiple half-siblings they never knew about? He stood up abruptly, pulling out his phone. I need to make some calls. To whom? Your lawyers, your publicist, the other families you are paying off. To try to minimize the damage you are about to cause. The damage I am about to cause. I laughed incredulously. Jonathan, I am not the one who had multiple affairs. I am not the one who abandoned children. I am not the one who has been lying to my family for decades. You caused this damage. I am just finally bringing it to light. He was already walking away, phone pressed to his ear, but I called after him. One more thing, Jonathan. When you are making those calls, you might want to warn Marcus that his girlfriend's family is about to implode. Because when I tell Mrs. Whitmore everything I know this afternoon, the first thing she is going to do is tell her son that his relationship is not what he thinks it is. He stopped walking and turned back to me, his face desperate. Please, he said, and for the first time his voice sounded genuinely broken. Please do not do this. Think about all the innocent people who will be hurt. I have thought about them, I replied. Your wife deserves to know the truth about her marriage. Your children deserve to know the truth about their father. Marcus deserves to know the truth about his relationship. And I deserve to stop being treated like a dirty secret. What about Brianna? She has done nothing wrong, and this will destroy her relationship. Brianna has been dating her half-brother for 2 years. That relationship is built on a lie, and it needs to end regardless of how much it hurts. He stared at me for a long moment, and I could see him cycling through anger, desperation, and finally resignation. You are going to regret this, he said quietly. When the media circus starts, when your life becomes a public spectacle, when you see how ugly this process can get, you are going to regret opening this door. Maybe, I admitted, but I am never going to regret finally telling the truth. Also, Mommy, GC. He walked back to his Mercedes without another word, and I sat alone on the park bench watching him drive away. In 3 hours, I would be sitting across from his wife telling her things that would change her life forever. In a few days, the story would probably be all over the local news. In a few weeks, my quiet life would be completely transformed. But for the first time in 24 years, I felt like I was finally in control of my own story. My phone rang again. This time it was Brianna. Sarah, please come home. Mom is having a panic attack, and Dad looks like he is going to have a heart attack. Whatever you are planning to do, we can figure out another way. No, Brianna, I said calmly. We cannot. Some things cannot be fixed with family meetings and compromise. Some things require the truth no matter how much it hurts. But what about Marcus and me? What about our future? What about it? If your relationship can survive the truth, then it is real. If it cannot, then it was built on lies anyway. I hung up and headed home to change clothes for the most important conversation of my life. The meeting with Catherine Whitmore lasted 3 hours and changed everything. She arrived at the hotel cafe 10 minutes early, just as I did, and I knew immediately she had already put some pieces together. The way she studied my face when I introduced myself, the careful questions she asked the photos she had clearly been looking at on her phone. Jonathan's wife was nobody's fool. "You have his eyes," was the first thing she said after we sat down. "And his stubborn chin. How old are you exactly?" 24. 24, she repeated thoughtfully. "That would make you, let me see, born about 9 months after Jonathan's supposed business trip to Portland in the spring of 2001. I stared at her. "You knew?" "I suspected. Back then, anyway." Jonathan came home from that trip different somehow. Guilty. Attentive in the way men get when they are trying to make up for something. But I convinced myself I was being paranoid. She smiled sadly. 24 years of convincing myself I was being paranoid. What followed was the most honest conversation I had ever had with an adult. Catherine told me about the mysterious business expenses she had noticed over the years, the unexplained withdrawals, the charity donations that did not quite add up. She told me about finding a second phone hidden in Jonathan's office 2 years ago, and about the other little signs that her marriage was not what she thought it was. In return, I told her everything. About my childhood feeling like an outsider, about the obvious favoritism toward Brianna, about discovering the truth on Christmas morning. I told her about the other families Emma had found, about the pattern of affairs and payoffs. And I told her about Marcus and Brianna. "My son has been dating his half-sister for 2 years, she said quietly, staring down at her untouched coffee. And nobody thought to mention this to either of them. Nobody wanted to rock the boat. Too much money, too much reputation at stake. Too many people more concerned with protecting Jonathan than with protecting the people he hurt." When we finally parted ways, Catherine Whitmore looked like a different woman than the one who had walked into that cafe. Older, sadder, but also somehow stronger. "What are you going to do?" I asked as we stood up to leave. "I am going to go home and have a very long conversation with my husband," she said. "And then I am going to call my lawyer." The next 72 hours were a whirlwind. Catherine confronted Jonathan that evening armed with everything I had told her, plus her own 24 years of suppressed suspicions. By all accounts, it was a nuclear conversation that ended with Jonathan moving out of the family home and Catherine filing for divorce. Marcus took the news about Brianna even worse than expected. According to the frantic texts I received from my half-sister, he threw up immediately after his mother told him the truth, then locked himself in his apartment and refused to see or speak to anyone for 2 days. When he finally emerged, it was to announce that he was moving across the country to take a job with a different company, as far away from our family drama as he could possibly get. Brianna was devastated, of course, but I found myself feeling surprisingly little sympathy for her. She had built her entire adult life on the foundation of unearned privileges, and now that foundation was crumbling. It was about time she learned what the rest of us had always known, that life is not fair, and sometimes consequences catch up with you whether you deserve them or not. My parents tried desperately to convince me to fix things somehow, as if I had the power to untell the truth, when I made it clear that I had no intention of backing down or apologizing for anything. They made a choice that surprised exactly nobody who had been paying attention for the past 24 years. They chose Brianna. "You have destroyed this family," Mom told me during our final conversation. "I hope you are happy with yourself." "I did not destroy this family," I replied calmly. "I just stopped pretending it was something it never was." The media attention was intense, but brief. Local newspapers picked up the story of the real estate mogul's secret affairs and hidden children. But without criminal charges or celebrity drama to sustain interest, it faded from public attention within a few weeks. Jonathan lost several major business contracts and stepped down from his charitable board positions. His political connections dried up overnight. The man who had spent decades building an image as a family values businessman became a cautionary tale about the price of living a double life. But the most satisfying development came 6 months later when Emma called me with an update on her research. Remember those 3 other women I found who were receiving payments from Jonathan well? It turns out 2 of them had children around the same time as different business trips Jonathan took over the years. And guess what those women are doing now that his whole house of cards has collapsed? Coming forward with lawyers. Sarah, your decision to go public has created an avalanche. Jonathan Whitmore is looking at child support payments for at least 4 children, probably more, plus alimony to Catherine, plus legal fees for multiple lawsuits. The man is going to be financially ruined. That news should have made me feel vindicated, but mostly it just made me sad. Not for Jonathan. He had made his choices and deserved every consequence coming his way. But for all the other children like me who had grown up feeling like they did not quite belong, who had spent years wondering why they were not good enough for their family's full love and attention. The best part of the whole mess was what happened with Catherine. 3 months after her divorce was finalized, she reached out to me with an unexpected proposition. "I know this might sound strange," she said over coffee, "but I would like to get to know you. Not because you are Jonathan's daughter, but because you are the person who finally gave me the push I needed to reclaim my own life." We started meeting regularly, and I discovered that Catherine Whitmore was everything I had always wished for in a mother figure. She was intelligent, funny, and fiercely protective of the people she cared about. She had spent 24 years suffocated by a marriage built on lies, and she was embracing her newfound freedom with enthusiasm. When she invited me to spend Christmas with her and her daughters, my half-sisters, I hesitated for about 30 seconds before saying yes. It was the best Christmas of my adult life. No expensive gifts bought with guilt money. No family tensions simmering under forced smiles. Just honest conversations, genuine laughter, and the radical experience of being in a room where everyone wanted me there. As I sat around Catherine's dining table watching my half-sisters argue good-naturedly about whose turn it was to do dishes, I realized something important. Family is not just about blood relationships or shared genetics. It is about the people who choose to love you, who show up for you when things get difficult, who celebrate your successes without jealousy or competition. I had spent 24 years trying to earn my place in a family that never really wanted me. Now I had found my way to people who did. So here is my question for all of you watching. Have you ever discovered a family secret that changed everything you thought you knew about your life? Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace and telling the truth, even when that truth was going to hurt people you cared about? Drop your stories in the comments below because I have learned that secrets have a way of eating families alive from the inside, and sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to keep them anymore. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life family drama stories. Share this video with anyone who has ever felt like the outsider in their own family, because, trust me, you are not alone, and you deserve better than being someone's dirty little secret. Thank you for watching, and remember, the truth might hurt, but lies hurt worse, and for longer. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop protecting people from the consequences of their own choices, even when those people are family. Until next time, keep choosing honesty over harmony, and never let anyone convince you that your truth matters less than their comfort.